What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, what moved it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did have a fairly solid day alongside much of the greater market. So SoFi went up 7.19%. NASDAQ itself went up 2.18%. 2116 the high, 2004 the low. And in fact, during the overnight trading, it did have a low of 1869. For those of you that kind of stay up and watch that, you did have a pretty good opportunity to buy. But although at this time, there was a hell of a lot of fear. Everything showed that Friday was going to be a bloodbath, largely because of Amazon earnings. What is really interesting, though, is that during the pre-market, you kind of had the narrative change. A lot of headlines stated because of Amazon earnings, things were moving higher. So it's kind of weird in my opinion. And for those of you that are new to the channel, I always like to dive deep into what happens behind the scenes, what big money is doing. So biggest difference between today and especially overnight was big money woke up during the pre-market and decided to just start buying. And so that was rather interesting overall. And even aside from that, though, we did have some data that did come out early this morning. It wasn't really that significant because already at that stage the market was fairly hyped up, but Michigan consumer sentiment came in at 57.3, forecast of 53, and then we did have the inflation expectations 3.5 versus the forecast. So even though this was very good data, the market didn't really care too much about it because it was already fairly hyped up. Again, largely because institutions decided to buy, even though nothing really fundamentally changed from today versus yesterday. So I feel like just a couple analyst ratings came out associated to Amazon and said that the 200 billion capex spend for 2026 is actually a good thing, not a negative thing. So it's just the market is all over the place right now. SoFi didn't put out any news. No speculative things were posted online. We did have this right here. So after hours yesterday, we had a Form 4, which did show Eric actually did buy some stock. So transaction code P. So it's always good to see insiders buying. But today we did get a 144 right over here, or first thing at 10:20, which did signal that Stephen J, who is a director, is selling 94,000 shares. So kind of back and forth a little bit. So I guess some insiders are buying, some are selling. That's kind of the downfall of that. But luckily enough, the market didn't seem to care about this all that much. Associated to shorts. So shorts did increase a small amount. 88,000 shares, 8.84% of the free float is being shorted, works to be 109 million shares overall being shorted. Shares on loan did drop quite significantly, so 90.3 million, whereas previously it was at about 116, give or take. So kind of signals that over the last several trading days, institutions have been selling, and those institutions were lending out stock. So that's kind of a good thing, but still nonetheless, there is a little bit of a case of naked shorting still occurring. DTC being at 1.97 days does signal that shorts are overextended. And as you can kind of see, shorts didn't do all that much. At the peak, they were increasing 1.1 million, but nothing of any significance. And what is rather odd is that I look at stocks, a lot of different stocks throughout the whole day. SoFi, so far, has been the only stock where shorts actually did increase. Every single other stock and every other video that I've done, shorts have been returning. So I don't know if that's meaning of something or whatever else, but definitely something to take note of. Aside from that, looking at the options, we did have 33 million in calls, 24 in puts. So kind of lower volume somewhat. Take that with a grain of salt. And similarly, every other stock that I kind of looked at, the options was bullish. In SoFi's case, 43% of all the options being done were bearish in nature. So I'm not here to get you or to kind of cause any fear or anything. All I'm doing is interpreting the data and kind of comparing it with what I typically look at on a daily basis. And so a lot of the stocks that I kind of looked at, like I said, you had bearish options, bullish options and just shorts were returning. Complete polar opposite with SoFi. With SoFi closing at 2086, that does mean that the 2050 and below strike prices are in the money. But as I kind of mentioned in my video yesterday, you don't really have that much in open interest. So you have 7,000 at the 20, 3,000 at the 2050. So you're not going to see any gamma squeeze or whatever else, but possibly going into next week, if we do see a nice recovery, let's say to that $23, $24 range, then it might be potentially on the table. But looking at the secondary market, you did have, as I kind of mentioned, big money buying. So this was the biggest difference between today and the last several trading days. You did have algorithmic trading really suppressing the broader market. Today, complete polar opposite. So there's a lot of different things happening overall. But still, aside from that, 17.8 million, that was the largest. That was done pretty much right out the gate. 2.03, 2.03, 2.03. So that most likely was the same entity right there. 1.1 million. Dark pool, very active. So the big ones were 8.1 million, 6.2, 5.2, 2.1. So definitely good to see. A lot of hold numbers as well. So 300,000 right there, a couple of 50s. So a lot of that is going to be hedge funds. So hedge funds were getting a little bit involved today with SoFi. This is not SoFi, this is NEO, but with SoFi closing at 2086, it is currently trading between these 2 points right here, this S1 and this S2. So 2033 is that strong support, and so it did obviously momentarily break below that, and especially even during the overnight. 2211 is going to be the next strong target / resistance, and it didn't really come close to that. So over the next couple trading days, so going into next week, just watch for this S2 to kind of essentially hold. Aside from all of that fun stuff on the actual chart itself, it kind of shows a little bit of hope, but it really needs to get above this 200-day moving average, and right quick. So early part of the week, it needs to fight back and get to that $23 range or $22.98, and then you could see possibly a nice kind of technical recovery, but still it's kind of stuck in limbo. So a lot of people are very unsure about today, whether it was just more of a dead cat bounce, a legitimate push higher, or who knows. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see. But there hasn't been any new analyst ratings, no real articles talking about SoFi or anything. So we'll just have to kind of wait and see what does truly come over the weekend. If there's any big events or any big announcements that could really help us set and plan where the market's pretty much going to go next. Hopefully everyone has a good weekend. Stay tuned for my video over the weekend as well, where I go over some expectations and whatever else. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades, worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.